This is Pod Populi.
Podcast for the people.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
Hi again, everyone. It's Brian Howie. Welcome to the Great Love Debate, the world's #1 dating and relationship podcast. Since 2015, I am here in the very fine studios of Pod Populi, Podcast for the People. I am at the one in Alpharetta, Georgia. I have not recorded in this one yet. There's another Pod Populi in Atlanta at Ponce City Market. It's very nice. I got Tim over there on the controls. Shout it out, Tim.
What's up, Brian?
All right. Atlanta is one of the very rare cities. They made our worst cities in America to find love back in like 2015, 2016. And then through a lot of hard work and a lot of changes in the city and a lot of press that we did about it, they did a big article about us and it changed things. It made our 10 best list like 2 years after that. It's not on any list now. It's sort of in the middle somewhere, but it's one of the only ones that's gone from sort of worst to first. So props to Atlanta. Atlanta looks good. Anyway, the last episode of this show, last week in your listening calendar, it was called The Joy of Being Wrong. And not only did that turn out to be the most listened to episode of the Great Love Debate this year, it was the most listened to episode this year, it was also the biggest show that we have had since 2019. I have no idea why. It was just me talking about that, sort of a catchy title, but it really got sent around. Every once in a while we'll do one of these episodes and somebody picks it up and shares it and it goes viral and, well, there you go. So I'm grateful for that. But from the emails that we received in the last week since that episode dropped, I think a whole lot of you guys took great joy in the idea of us, meaning me, being wrong, and particularly wrong about a few things, love, dating, relationships over the last 8 or 9 years that we've done this show. Because we got so many things, all sorts of things sent to us with some variation of, what about that time you said this? Do you still think that? Or here's what else you were wrong about. I got so many of those. So I don't like to do consecutive episodes of this show where it's just me. But I never really feel like it's just me because there's, tens of thousands of you guys. So here we are. But you're going to get just me again because I'm going to read and respond to some of these emails. Most of them because they're entertaining, but some of them so I can point out how wrong you are. I'm not wrong on some of these. Believe me, it will give you such great joy if you own your wrongness and embrace it, as I did on the last episode. So breathe and bathe in your wrongness. And a couple of them you might even be right on. So the first one I got, and we got this from a whole bunch of you, and we always get a ton of feedback every time I touch this subject. It really is a dating third rail, especially in a place like Atlanta, Georgia. It's a big deal here. So many are sort of stuck in their ways and this bizarre mindset. So I'm going to use the one from Heather in Charlotte, just up 75, 85, just up 85 from here. Heather from Charlotte wrote in, Brian, I'm glad to hear you say you like being wrong. Will you finally admit that religion does matter and that there is nothing wrong with wanting to date someone with the same faith and beliefs as me? Heather, I'm not saying you're wrong to want that. I'm saying it really won't make you any happier or give you a better relationship. And this is the great love hill I will die on and probably go to heaven. Meow. I just think you can throw a dart at any random characteristic and hope to match with someone. But if you think that being a Baptist or Orthodox Jewish or atheist or whatever you believe in, and I lump atheist into there too because those people are as evangelical about their atheism as anything else. If you're very strict about, I need this real narrow path of specific religious beliefs, and I need somebody who believes the exact same things and celebrates the same way, as the key to anything, I will always think you are wrong. I just will. It really makes no more difference other than in some lifestyle things and in an hour or so a week or 10 minutes a day or a handful of holidays a year. Other than that, you kind of can go your separate ways and do your own thing. It is no different than if a meat eater and a pescatarian get together, or if a Yankee fan and a Dodger fan get together. I'm a Mets fan, and I've got a Braves fan about 5 feet away from me. Are we good, Tim? Are we good? Anyway, somebody's journey with God or whoever or whatever they believe is probably the most personal and constantly evolving things in their own lives. So for you to need them to have exactly the same journey as you, I just think it's nearly an impossible thing to find. And I'm not sure you can trust that person that you're falling for predominantly because of this journey. I don't think you can trust that they're always going to be on that path. People's faiths come and go. And if you're saying, which a lot of you say to me, but we want to raise our kids in the same religion. And I'm like, why? Like convenience? Because you think one way is going to be better than the other. Do I think I'm better off with someone who shared the same miserable Catholic childhood that I did? I don't. And I'm like, why? Why in the world would you think that's going to make your relationship, your romantic relationship, better? If you want to share traditions and superstitions and habits and whatever you want to call it, I don't want to go full agnostic on you, but I don't think it makes a bit of difference at all in your relationship. I think someone who drinks a ton and somebody who's a recovering alcoholic getting together is a challenge. But obviously, 2 radically different lifestyle choices, it might work, no doubt. And everybody gets so mad, like, do not compare my relationship with the Lord to drinking. I'm not. I'm just saying that lots of people have lots of ways to sort of slice their personal apple. And if you're focusing on this one thing, I'm not going to think that makes any difference than 100 other things. Should 2 people who are different give it a shot? Why not? So all you Mormons looking for love with Presbyterians out there, go on a date. Maybe you'll have a drink together. Probably the Mormons won't, but probably the Presbyterians might not either, but it might work out. So put your faith aside for a second and get to know the person on all the other levels. So try that. I'm not wrong, but thanks for playing, Heather from Charlotte. The next one, I might be wrong about this. Here's another thing you are wrong about. This is from Megan in Brooklyn. Brian, you always include New York on your worst cities in which to date list, which is so wildly incorrect. There are more opportunities here than anywhere, and the amount of interesting people in the city blows away some of the places you think are so great. Come back to the Big Apple and let us show you around. I don't know. You can go to a Waffle House about 10 minutes from here, and you can find a lot of interesting people, too. So I don't want to think New York. First of all, I am, and I will probably always be a New Yorker, a proud New Yorker. So I don't need the tour guide about what it's like in the city, Megan, but I will grant you that I'm a bit hard on New York. I think New York can handle it. Am I wrong about it, though? I'll say this. In 2023, as we record this, New York is a hard place to live. It just is. Almost nobody moves out of New York and moves back. They moved to places like Atlanta, and they moved to Charlotte, and they moved to Florida, and they moved to a lot of places. Almost nobody leaves New York and moves back except for Jerry Seinfeld, and he is leading a different life from you. Okay? It's very rare that people leave New York or Los Angeles, for that matter, and move back. So say what you want about that. But this isn't about living in New York. This is about dating in New York. It's just hard. I don't think New York, and you can throw Paris into this loop too, and I'm a big fan of Paris. I talked about this on the London podcast a few weeks ago. New York and Paris, they've never been dirtier. They've never been angrier. They've never been more broken down, less hopeful, at least not since, the old Summer of Sam mid-'70s or probably the early 80s when I actually did live there. Not the 70s. I'm not that old. The 90s. So everyone always wants to cling when we live in New York, and I was part of this. We want to cling to this rom-com, Sex and the City version of New York, and 99% of the time, it's just not like that. So do I agree that on any corner in the big city, you can find love? And because New York has the most corners, does that mean the most opportunities? I think I would agree with that. I would. But does Lady Liberty stand in the harbor and with that resting bitch face and sort of cast a pall over the whole mood? She does. Sorry. That's my opinion. But I haven't dated there in a long time. So we have done more live shows in New York City than anywhere in America. And I got to say, they are always the most fun. Not quite as fun as Atlanta, but they are super fun. And the New Yorkers always do bring the energy and the passion to the proceedings. So does that bring some positivity and some second thoughts to my thoughts on New York? Maybe. I'll give you a maybe. I'll give you I could be wrong. I'll consider it. New York, you got a few more months to get off the 2024 worst cities list, so get after it. But I am taking that one under advisement. I could be wrong about it. So we're going to get to after all of this a bit more what you think we were wrong about, but I got to take a quick break so as not to do wrong by our sponsors, and we will be back right after this. And we are back. We're talking about what I may or may not be wrong about. Continuing of the thread from last week, the joy of being wrong. So this is from Greg with 3 Gs. 3G Greg. I'm not going to comment right or wrong on that, but Greg with 3 Gs says, I know you have said many times the guy should always pay, but you are wrong. This isn't 1955. Whoever asks out should pay. If she asks me out, she should pay. So, 3G Greg. I don't think anybody's asking you out. So who are you kidding? But anyway, the man pays. I'm not wrong about that. I don't care who asks who out. Just fucking pay. Step up, man up. She wants you to pay. If you don't want to pay, she's probably going to think you don't deserve her anyway. So I think the philosophy we've had around here since we started the show is for the first 3 dates, you pay for everything. Period. She could pay for little things like a drink or a cab or an ice cream or movie tickets. See, cab, I say that as the old New Yorker in me. But trust me, the whole relationship will get somewhere a whole lot faster if you're the one plopping down your Amex, regardless of who asked who out. Once you start getting into an actual relationship where you guys are dating, then you can work out your incomes and cash flows and all that kind of stuff. But you pay first, my friend Greg. And if she offers to pay, if she does the reach, you handle it the way we always tell you to handle it, which means we told you what her offer means. Her offer to pay or to split it or to get something, it usually means 4 things, none of them good. And I'm going to repeat them because we are definitely not wrong about this. First, most likely she's offering to pay as a test to see if you will let her. So don't fall for that. It's not a test. It's a test. It's not a kind gesture. So don't fail the test. But the other 3 reasons she might offer, none of them are good either. She's either saying, this isn't a date, or she's saying, I don't want to owe you anything, or she's saying, we're not doing this again. So I don't care if she asks you out, or she begs you to let her pay, or you want to try and fast forward into some era of financial equality for some reason. It will never be equal. She spent a ton of money on herself to get ready for the date, and in the days and the years leading up to the date than you ever will, Greggy boy. She's already paid, so it's not equal. She already spent her money. The date is your chance to catch up. So you pay. Not wrong on that one. The next one, which also came from a lot of you, or some version of this did. We will use Lindsay, and Lindsay spells it with 2 I's and an E. So she is Lindssie, and she sent it via our Facebook page. And Lindsay, your parents might have gotten that spelling wrong for talking about wrong. Lindssie. I always find it amusing and a little nutty when somebody spells their name like a completely non-traditional way, and then they get mad when somebody spells it wrong in an email or something. You know, sorry. If you're the non-traditional speller, I think the burden is on you. And you give them a few passes till they get it right. So be interesting and different all you want. It might take everyone else a little longer to catch up to your cute spelling ways. So if give them a break if they only used 4 B's instead of 6 B's in Barbara. Anyway, Lindsay, Lindssie, says, Brian, you have always been wrong about you saying we don't give clear enough signals to men that we are interested in them. Most of the time, the guys simply aren't listening or paying attention. That's why they miss out on what we are saying, and that's why they miss out on us. Possibly. I've said many times that the signals that the ladies are giving out most of the time are at a level only dogs can hear, and that they could and need to be clearer and more obvious. I could be wrong about that. I have gotten a little pushback on that, and people think that's lazy thinking and an excuse on my part. I could be wrong. Because maybe it does take more of a focus by us guys to what you are communicating and when and how, and I think I will concede that point. So will this be a great feeling to be like, wait, you liked me all along and I just didn't notice? I mean, for sure, that's one of the joys of being wrong. Guys, you could be like, oh my God, she did like me. I was wrong. See how liberating that is? But seriously, Lindsay, I do think that's a valid point. I mean, the excuse I could give is most of the time we were just distracted by your beauty and what we want to do with the beauty, and maybe we aren't getting all the info that you're trying to get through. It's a totally fair point and a totally good argument for us to give. But I think I'll put that in the wrong column for me. You all really loved me all along. I just wasn't listening. Didn't pick up on your signals. Noted. See, I feel better already. This is a valuable exercise doing this. All right, the next one. Brian, stop saying the guy needs to ask the girl out. The men are such pussies. Let us take the initiative and just get the ball rolling. It definitely doesn't hurt things, and it often helps if we just go for it. And that is from Abby, also via the Facebook page. First of all, it's a general philosophy. It's not an absolute. I've definitely had some relationships where I was asked to get a drink and talk about some projects or talk about work or some cleverly couched phrasing that made it seem like a casual meeting and less of a date. I have done that. I've been on the receiving end of that. But I'm going to defer to the esteemed John Gray. And for those of you who don't know who John Gray is, he wrote Men Are From Mars and Women Are For Venus, and he was on this podcast. And that's still one of the best-selling books. Still holds up. So John Gray was on this podcast a few years ago, and he said that there is an actual physiological reaction that occurs when a woman approaches a man and a little burst of estrogen is released into and throughout his body, making already passive, pussified men even more so. And I'm not sure that's a good thing. I'm not sure a lot of the women would think that's a good thing, but maybe it does calm the beast a bit, at least in him. And so maybe that in itself is a good thing in the early moments of an encounter. So I might be wrong about that, ladies. So try it out. Go up to him in Home Depot, which I believe is headquartered in Atlanta, and ask him where to find some caulk. That could work. I'm fine with that. Or let the wood dust aroma of the Lowe's, if Lowe's is your preference, counterbalance his estrogen release. So I'll give you that one, Abby. I will. That is a slight one into your column. I'm wrong. Have at it. Ask him out, but let him pay. You pay, boys. I'm not wrong on that. All right, last one. This is from Ben from Marblehead, Mass. This is Ben from Marblehead. And Ben says, you always say that dinner is not a good first date because it's essentially an interview-style date. I was at your show in Boston where you actually said it was a prison visitation-style date, and I think that's wrong. Dinner is always romantic. Dinner can last and it can linger, and you can get to know each other when it goes well with a great meal at the right restaurant with a good wine. It's always the best. Well, that's a lot of qualifiers, Ben from Marblehead. You're basically saying if this, and this happens, it could go great. So I'll grant you that. So let me say this. In a perfect world, yes, dinner and drinks is always good. I would probably do the same thing 90% of the time, despite my big talk. You know, the ceilings for those things is always high. For good dinner, nice bar, good drinks, all the ceiling is high, but I think the floor is low too. So when I said the dinner's essentially a prison visitation style date, I meant that you are sitting across from each other. You're probably nervous with this sort of metaphorical piece of glass between you, having a stilted interview style conversation with some strangers nearby listening in. That's kind of the way it's like, I imagine, for prison visitations. And a lot can go wrong in that scenario where you're put there, just the two of you talking, God forbid, unless you are really relaxed and really good at it. And very few people are either of those things. And so I think activities where there's an actual activity, like the painting with the wine or Top Golf or whatever, I just think they're far more likely to get the walls down and have you relax and hopefully bring out the personality. So I'm not wrong about that part of it, but sometimes people do take my advice and overthink it, and then you are taking her to paintball and somebody takes one in the eye and you're in the emergency room and maybe you don't get a second date. So totally fair. That scenario is plausible and fair. So if you know the right restaurant and neither of you have any advanced dietary restrictions, and you go into it with a playful and impish and curious and optimistic mood, have at it. Order the nachos and the edamame and get to work. Yes, dinner's great. So I'm not really wrong about the general philosophy, but I am wrong that I'm so absolute about it. Yeah, dinner shouldn't be your preset automatic default, but if you throw some planning and imagination and maybe some lamb chops and a souffle into the mix, and something I'm not wrong about, get the dessert menu. She definitely wants dessert. Don't even ask if she does or doesn't. She doesn't, at least one bite. If you do all that, make those reservations. Done and done. So I think that's enough of me being wrong for the day. It's such a relief. It's such a relief to bathe in my own wrongness. There's a great line in that old movie, Broadcast News. So look that movie up if you haven't seen it. That's another movie that holds up. He says to Holly Hunter, he goes, "It must always be nice to always believe you know better, to always think you're the smartest person in the room." And she answers, "No, it's awful." And so it is. So there's glory in being wrong. We're going to move on to more positive. We're going to be right about some things on the next episode. I have a really pretty big celebrity coming on. We have some kids coming on to do our kids version of this that we do once or twice a year. Shoot us an email, greatlovedebate@gmail.com, if you have questions, thoughts, or other things I'm wrong about. I'm not going to read anymore on the air. I've taken my lumps on this for a while. Go to greatlovedebate.com. There could be some live tour dates here. I did a really awesome show here at City Winery in Atlanta a couple years ago, and being back in Atlanta, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I want to do a show there again. It's a really great venue, and there's always a fun crowd here because the dating scene in Atlanta, Georgia is interesting to say the least. But like, share, follow. Please review this podcast. Your reviews to this day always mean a lot in the podcasting ecosystem because, as always, at The Great Love Debate, we never stop making love. See you next time.